Hi everyone, my name is Peter Glagowski and welcome to my YouTube channel that I don't really have a good introduction for, but today I'm here with two of the key figures from Nightdive Studios. Why don't you guys introduce yourself for everyone?
My name is Stephen Kick. I am the studio head of Nightdive Studios.
Larry Kuperman, and I'm the biz dev guy.
Great, and you guys have been, Nightdive was formally founded in 2011, was it?
Yeah, roughly 2011, 2012. System Shock 2, our first game, came out on Valentine's in 2013, I believe. So, yeah, it's been a long ride.
That's
Wow.
the story that we've been sticking to.
The details always change a little bit every year.
Well, that's what makes it interesting, right? So, outside of the System Shock 2 remaster that launched today, what are some of the most recent projects you guys have worked on, and what are some of the other plans you have for the remainder of this year?
Well,
yeah, go ahead, Larry.
well, so things that we've worked on recently. Last year was a really great year for us, culminating with the launch of The Thing. So that was a really exciting project, and probably the best-selling game that we have ever released so far.
Wow.
And I'm gonna add that so far. Looks like we've got a hit on our hands with System Shock 2. The other thing that I wanted to bring up that fans of Nightdive might not be as acutely aware of as some of our other high-profile projects. We run into situations, and we have for years, where we'd like to do more extensive work on a game, but either the rights situation doesn't permit us to do that, or there's missing source code. We just don't have the assets or the bandwidth. And we've started something that we're referring to internally as restorations, to differentiate them from remakes and remasters, where we take a game, in this case, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, that was previously only a PC title, and we've ported it to consoles. We work with a third party that's helped us with that porting work. It's not all done internally at Nightdive, but it's the first experience that people who own Xbox or PlayStation have to play some of these classic games. They've been available for PC audiences for some time, and that seems to have really resonated with the community, and we're looking at potentially doing more of that.
Yeah, and I know now with the Switch 2 having built-in mouse controls, something like that would be really perfect.
That's something that we're aware of, and that we're looking at. That's been it's been one of the challenges that we've had, in the past. That we'd like to do more with the game, but the assets just aren't there. We just don't have what we can work with, and so we found a partner that can bring those games to consoles. There's a certain myopia that develops in the gaming world. If you're a mobile gamer, everything is mobile games to you. If you're a console gamer, everything is your particular flavor of console. And people forget that there's wider audience, that we try to make all of our games playable on every platform. So this is something that we're pretty excited about.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a big fan of Nightdive for, well, I guess it's 15 years now. And I have pretty much every release you've done, so I'm always astonished by the work. I mean, I don't know if you've seen my video for the System Shock 2 remaster, but I was like, sometimes it's not exciting because the stuff is just so expected, but then the bar of quality that you guys have set is so exceptionally high that sometimes it's just well, they met it again. All right, so moving away from, future projects or anything, are there any games that the two of you have played lately? in general outside of work?
One game that I'm really enjoying right now is called The Midnight Walk, and it is an adventure game in this handmade kind of artisan style where all the assets and 3D models were originally hand sculpted with like clay and different kinds of artistic mediums. And it's got a very, and I kind of hate to like kind of put it into this category, but like a Tim Burton-esque stop motion animation kind of look and feel. It's very dark and somber, but it's beautiful. It's an incredible looking game, and it's got some light puzzle solving, but it's mostly kind of a relaxing adventure game.
Dark and evil and relaxing.
Yeah, right up my alley.
I think I've heard of that. There's some other game too, I believe, that had like claymation for its character models and whatnot. I'm not gonna remember the name of that off the top of my head, but that sounds interesting.
So many games, so little time, right?
Yeah. And sometimes it's just like, it looks cool and I mean to get to it, and then I just can't because of life or work or whatever else I'm doing.
So my answer to that, there's a company that we have partnered with, the team over at Zen Pinball.
Yeah.
Greatest pinball company, but they did a System Shock table that's really quite cool. But this isn't an advert or a partnership thing. I was addicted to their stuff well before then. They just released 2 new tables based on the Tomb Raider series of games. I haven't gotten high score yet, but I'm number 266 on one of the lists. So that's what I've been playing in my off time.
That's pretty awesome. Have you tried it on Switch?
No, I haven't. You know, it's funny. I play most of my games on PC, but I have an indulgence. I bought a digital pinball table.
That thing was awesome, though, the one that they did.
So I have a full-size pinball table that I can play these games on. So it's an addiction. I mean, I might as well say it. You know, it's an addiction. So
Yeah, years ago, I reviewed their Star Wars pinball thing for Switch, and it's just, you could put it in like tape mode, and then it's like, this is awesome. I love that. Okay, so moving away from games, what type of films do you guys enjoy, and what have you watched recently? You know, this is more just like general inspirations for everything.
Steve, you go ahead. I'm going to have a long list.
Yeah, sure. Well, the last movie I watched that I genuinely loved was Robert Eggers' Nosferatu.
Oh, that came out the end of last year, right?
Yeah. I just had another opportunity to watch it again, and it got better, you know, the second time, and I assume it's just going to get better. It's going to age really well. But I'm a big fan of just the kind of the A24 aesthetic. So anything by Ari Aster's or again Robert Eggers, that's kind of what I tend to gravitate when it comes to film. But I also love just weird offbeat stuff like hidden gems. I managed to pick up a copy of Alex Winter's I think it's called Freaked. It's got the cameo appearance by Keanu Reeves as a werewolf soldier.
Wow.
Yeah, very, very strange. It's out of print, like you can't even get it anymore. But it's totally bizarre if you want to see something very strange.
Interesting.
So I've been filling in my my animated, or getting caught up on my animated stuff. So first of all, Secret Levels inspired me to I've been on that binge since that came out a couple of months ago. Latest one is the Predator animated series, Killer of Killers. That was excellent. Really enjoyed that. I have been savoring one chapter at a time of Blood of Zeus. Really enjoying that one for those of us that are myth fans. And I'm blocking on the name of it, but there's also the animated series based on the Norse gods. That one's also been quite good. But Blood of Zeus is the one that's got me hooked currently.
I spend most of my time watching a lot of foreign movies. Like, I'm very big into Hong Kong cinema, so I have a ton of Blu-rays and 4K discs now, and I even have an OLED, so everything looks phenomenal. And that's how I spend most of my time with movies. And as a natural progression of that, what sort of hobbies do the two of you have outside of gaming?
Great question. I do a lot of miniature painting. So I don't have time to play the games. I just like painting the minis. And even then, yeah, it's just hard to find the time to do it these days. But I do a lot of that, and I play guitar. Sometimes in between meetings. Again, when I have the time. And I'm really big into collecting comic books right now. It was something that I was really passionate about when I was a kid, and I've been reading a lot of the comics that are coming out these days, and it's got me back into, boarding and bagging and collecting and grading comics. It takes a lot less time to do than my other hobbies. So, what about you, Larry?
I've been teaching, which is really my first love. I teach a class through the Osher Lifelong Learning that's held at the University of UNLV, the University of Nevada, Las Vegas campus. But it's a virtual class. But that's something that I've been doing, and I've been doing lectures. I'm really active in the IGDA as I kind of approach the culmination of my career. I won't say the end of it. Every time I talk about it, that target seems to get further and further away. But stuff that I've been doing in terms of giving back. I mentioned lectures. I did a presentation for City University of New York's graduating class on how to get a job in the games industry. I figure 4 years of college, however much you're going to be in debt, somebody should tell you something that will enable you to eat and pay your bills. So that's something that I've been involved in, and I get a great deal of joy out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine I've always wanted to do like a panel at a convention or something just to talk. I don't know, because I'm not particularly a game developer, but I feel like there's a certain art to criticism even, in that I wish I could get it to a wider audience to understand that it's not just going, well, this thing sucked,
I always use the word sucksors with the linked spelling. There are probably maybe 5% of your audience will know what I'm talking about, but
the zeros and
yeah.
So that also naturally segue. I wrote these questions well. How did either of you get into game development? I know a little bit of it, Stephen, is that you just wanted System Shock 2 and it wasn't available.
Yeah, I mean, even before that, I was a huge gamer in middle school, high school, and when it came time to figure out what it was I wanted to do, post graduation, I really didn't have any idea other than I think gaming would be cool. It was still like gaming schools were just starting to kind of take off, and it seemed like an actual career path. At that time, we're talking early 2000s, so like 2002 to 2004-ish is kind of when I started thinking about it. And then I remember getting an issue of PC Gamer in the mail. I had a subscription, and there was an advert in there for the Art Institute of California, San Francisco, and their fledgling game art and design program. And initially it was kind of organized as a, hey, send in your portfolio and there's a chance that you could get a scholarship. So I prepared a portfolio. Art was kind of my main focus in high school. And I got accepted into the program. And originally I went in wanting to learn game design. So I kind of took what they called the GAD, the Game Art and Design program, and just ended up doing a lot of writing. I wrote like hundreds of game design documents and learned that whole process. And what was great is they had you take a kind of a wide variety of classes that dealt with the different disciplines of game development. So, you know, I took programming classes, I took animation classes, 3D modeling classes, level design classes, and I really kind of hit it off when we started doing character models. And I basically kind of switched my focus from game design to game art. And I tailored my entire portfolio while I was at the Art Institute for character art. And right out of school, I got a job down in San Diego for an indie company called Paleo Entertainment, who were doing Half-Life 2 mods at the time. But we're one of the very first studios to license the Crytek engine. So that was a very interesting experience. I was only there for probably maybe 6 to 8 months before I got a job at Sony Online Entertainment, doing character art for one of their MMOs. But that's kind of how I broke in.
Wow. What would that have been, like planet side, or?
Not at first. I did. I worked on a game called Free Realms, which was like a World of Warcraft for kids. There's still remnants of it on YouTube, like you can see what it looks like and how it played, and it was very ambitious for what it was. But it was great. I got to do kind of a wide variety of different things. Like they had me do concept art, and then if my concepts got approved, I got to model and texture them before handing them off to be rigged. I do like vertex weighting and stuff so that the models would be all skinned and ready to go for the animators. And there was just a lot that I could do on that team. But then when that project kind of wound down, I ended up working on some Star Wars games. I think Galaxies had been, well, it had been shut down at that point because I believe, like, was it this time? I think Disney had acquired Lucas at that point.
Okay. Yeah.
And the Old Republic was still going, and they didn't want there to be like competition. So we worked on an MMO called Clone Wars Adventures that had updates that came out whenever new episodes of the Clone Wars came out on TV. So that was really neat. We got access to Lucas's internal archives, and we could download the 3D assets from the movies and the TV shows, so that we could build our little in-game versions of them. But then after that, I worked on PlanetSide 2. So okay. Yeah, and then that's when the game shipped, I left, and then that's how the whole Nightdive things kind of started.
So I was a this is not my first career. I had a whole career in America's dirtiest industry. I worked in healthcare finance for a number of years. Dialysis centers, nursing homes. I mean, I worked across the board. And I had burnt out on that, but I joined that at the time when computerization was first hitting the hospitals. Yes, I am that old.
No.
When I started, the tracking of you through your hospital stay was largely done on paper, almost exclusively. But the reason I bring that up is because involuntarily I had become the computer expert. And my first PC, my first PC was a Commodore 64 that I used for so that I could set up print jobs so that I didn't have to go to school to print something out that I needed for the next day. That was how I started, and by the early '90s, I'd moved on to Windows 3.1. Remember being tremendously excited by by Windoom, that I didn't have to drop out to a DOS prompt and fill in my IRQ settings. That was something I no longer miss. But so as we got to towards the end of the '90s, I'd moved into pure tech. I had done consulting for places on computerization, and then I moved into sales. I was a original BlackBerry, the beeper sized BlackBerry that was only email. It was not your telephone. You had a BlackBerry on one hip and a phone on the other hip. I had done that, and I was still living in Michigan, and I received a very random email from a company called Stardock that talked about their products, but at the end of it, it said that they were seeking a sales manager to come work in beautiful Livonia, Michigan, where it was always sunny and 72 degrees. This was in December of 2000. It was neither sunny nor 72 degrees in Michigan, which caused me to write back saying clearly there were two Livonias, the one in their fantasy world and the one that I knew that was cold as a landlord's heart. They wrote back, and one thing led to another, and I came in for a chat. It was not supposed to be an interview, it was supposed to be a chat. And met Brad Wardell and Angie Marshall, and something clicked. It was really funny because I showed up at Stardock wearing a suit and a lot of gold jewelry, very much a sales guy. Something clicked out of that. They offered me the opportunity to join Stardock as originally the sales manager, and I was supposed to do enterprise sales of software. But did we mention that we also have a gaming division, and we'd like you to look at that? And that changed my life. I worked at Stardock for 11 years, helped develop Impulse, which was sold to GameStop. I joined the team over at GameStop for 2 years as their head of PC digital, and GameStop decided that digital was just a passing phase, and that brick and mortar was coming back real strong. And so they got rid of my entire division. I did some consulting work, but I really wanted to get back into something creative, something that involved making games. And I thought I might want to move to Portland. So I started looking down a list of video game companies in Portland, and Steve was number 2 on the list. Number 1 turned me down, I think. and Steve and I, from the first time that we met, we just hit it off. And so I tell everybody it's 25 years in the games industry, and I've only had 3 jobs.
Pretty impressive, yeah.
2 of them lasting more than a decade, which is really pretty unusual. So,
wow. I do remember, like, didn't Stardock have like some shooter that was on asteroids or something?
I don't think Stardock did that. During the time that I was at Stardock, we did some very high quality games. We did the Galactic Civilization series of games.
Okay.
Led up to Outsource, our first partnership game, which was Sins of a Solar Empire, another classic. We did a Demigod with Chris Taylor. And that Chris Taylor relationship led to the first remaster that I was ever involved in, which was the remaster Total Annihilation, done at Stardock for our platform. Little did I know that when we did that I would be spending the next decade and a half doing that. That was my primary focus during that time. So games like Demigod, Elemental was the last game that was being worked on while I was at Stardock, and that shipped after I had left, after I had moved to GameStop. So
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Like, I know I had Stardock for. They used to have Windows XP themes.
window blinds,
Great.
absolutely. A story about Windows XP themes. If you remember, Windows XP shipped with 3 themes:
Yeah.
blue, silver, and green, and they kind of worked. It was pretty ironic. Things that they didn't skin included Office. So, but Stardock had been publishing window blinds for years before then, and we kind of got into what could have been an adversarial situation. But in fact, one of the VPs at Microsoft did this wonderful statement for us, saying, "Look, we're only shipping with 3 themes. If you want more themes, go to our partners like Stardock." So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I used to, because nowadays I don't even care, but back then I was in love with that stuff. I loved customizing the desktop and all that.
One of my moments in life before I started working at Stardock was watching. But I was sales manager for a white box PC company, and one of our tech guys was playing some music, and when I looked at what was playing music, it's like, how come your copy of Winamp doesn't look like mine?
Mm-hmm.
And that was how the skinning bug bit me.
I used to love Winamp too.
You got it.
Did.
You got to admit, early days of Winamp, it really kicked the llama's ass.
It really whips the llama.
Whips the llama's ass. Sorry. Yes.
Oh man.
I still have my skins.
Do you? Wow.
Yeah, well, I kept my favorites, of course.
I don't listen to music on my computer like that anymore. Like, I usually either through YouTube or whatever streaming service, but that's neither here nor there.
You don't have a hard drive with gigs and gigs of MP3s with all varying bit rates?
Dumb though, because I still have a few CDs from my favorite bands. Like, I got Daft Punk stuff and Tool stuff and the Beatles and Pink Floyd. I have that whole
nice
discography they released at Best Buy 15 or 16 years ago.
So I have a whole closet full of CDs and another one full of DVDs that I never play because I stream everything.
So
for movies, I got into ripping the Blu-rays. So I have a Plex server set up and I just do that. But I have the discs for that.
we got my 5-year-old just a little boombox kind of thing for his room because he loves music. He loves dancing, and he's got a whole list of artists that he loves already. So he asks for CDs for, birthdays and Christmases. And I got to go and get my old Case Logic CD binder folder out. And he's like, "Oh, what's that one?" And he started watching the Star Wars movies, and I have the soundtracks on CD. So sometimes when he's supposed to be in bed sleeping, we'll hear that 20th Century Fox stinger, dun 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 dun, and then the whole theme will start playing in his room, and it's like, well, what are we gonna do? Go tell him he can't listen to orchestral music at night,
I don't sleep. I mean,
Yeah.
It's okay until he starts playing death metal right after you've had a conversation with him.
Oh yeah, I know. Well, that's coming too. I just know it.
You got to realize that my eldest is approximately the same age as Steve.
Yeah.
So we've had different experiences. I'm not. There's joy at every stage of fatherdom, but my kid took me to Paris last year, so I'm doing okay.
When I was a teenager, I kind of gave my parents hell, so I get it. When you're a teenager, you're just kind of
Back to the video game question, like what we're playing. The other game that I play a lot of is Fortnite because my son plays it, and so that's kind of our bonding game. And he's getting better than me, which is already kind of frightening.
I haven't.
I used to have my son go into when at Stardeck we had Unreal tournament matches. I used to have my son go in as a ringer for me.
See, that's what I would have loved if I ever have kids, I would love to be like, Unreal Tournament, let's go. We got like the LAN party set up. All right. So shifting into System Shock 2 for real this time.
That one game, yeah.
So I've read a couple of things, like some blogs that the community managers put out, and then I've seen that Giant Bomb stream you did yesterday. But approximately when did the remaster project begin for this? I know it's not going to be exact. That's why approximate.
It's been in development for a really long time.
I'm going to say maybe 2018, 2019.
I think that's about right because that was when the System Shock Enhanced Edition finished, and the developer on that immediately jumped on to System Shock 2. And the reason that it took so long is one, we never quite found the entire source code. We did find pieces of it here and there that kind of sped things up a little bit, but that whole project, it also kind of changed from just being an enhanced edition. We wanted to be kind of on par with System Shock 1 Enhanced Edition and just be like a more clean, easy to use version. But as the development kept taking longer and longer and longer, we were like, well, it's taken this long already. Why don't we throw everything at it at this point and update all the art, fix the animations, redo the cinematics, clean up long-standing bugs, get the multiplayer working cross-platform. Why don't we put it on console? Let's get controller support. And it just kind of kept evolving into what we have now, which is the 25th anniversary remaster. So yeah, probably 2018 is when it actually started.
Peter, this is a quote that they'll probably go on my tombstone. But in the game development business, the longest journey often starts with the words, "You know what else would be cool?"
Yeah, I could see that. Because I mean, you never want to just ship something that's like, oh, we did it, whatever.
We've been saying this for years, and I think you really have to be an insider at Nightdive to know the truthfulness of it. But every game that we do is a labor of love. Otherwise, we don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, nothing I've ever played from you guys feels to me like, oh, they just kind of phoned it in. And even the ones that are like minor updates, like to me, it's still like, I get it. You guys wanted this back for people to play on modern platforms or whatever, and there just wasn't much you needed to tweak because,
or that we could. And I just I just want to. One of the funny things about being Nightdive, and I don't want to get too far off the track of System Shock 2, is that people are always yelling at us to do other games. That this is my favorite game. When I say that, I mean, if you look at our pages, we'll post an announcement about, hey, System Shock 2 25th anniversary is out, and people will go, well, when's this game coming out? Like, dude, have you played the one that we just released?
Yeah.
That happens all the time. And the funny part about it is that we're the same way. I mean, we'd love to do it, but there are certain criteria that we need, like permission from the IP holders, negotiated contracts, and source code. Those are kind of standards for us. So
yeah, we'll get into that more a little bit later because I do want to ask about one release that still hasn't materialized yet. But going back to System Shock 2, how difficult was it to implement gamepad controls? Because I mean, I can't imagine it. They work somehow, but
Well, we did have a little experience with the remake of System Shock 1, which is just, it's kind of funny because when we were developing that game, we knew we wanted to take some design elements from System Shock 2 and kind of bring it back, if that makes sense. And what we kind of referred to our game internally was System Shock 1.5. So it was as if, you know, the interface and the control scheme and everything like that from 2 had been developed midway between 1 and 2. So it's a little odd to think of it that way, but it gave us the opportunity to really figure that out because there's a lot of similarities between the way our remake controls and System Shock 2 controls. So we took the work we did there and we applied it to the work on System Shock 2 Remaster. So we kind of went through that whole process already, and there was a lot that we learned that first time that helped us map all the specific controls to gamepad. And it is a little tricky, but once you kind of get the hang of it, it becomes very second nature, and actually feels pretty good because it's something that you're not quite used to on gamepad, and it causes your brain to have to almost relearn how to use the controller in that regard. And once it clicks, it clicks and it feels really good. It's almost like I like to compare it to Doom Eternal.
I've never played that on a gamepad.
Yeah, I mean, even on the keyboard, which is what I played it on, it's like you have to really think about it at first, and it doesn't really jibe right away. But when it does, when it clicks, it almost feels like this analogy is really weird, but it almost feels like Guitar Hero. Like you're not playing music.
You mean though?
But you're orchestrating death and destruction and maintaining your health and your ammo and everything else at the same time. And it's just a different way to really play a game. And this control scheme, you know, while not as like Fast and Furious, it has some odd similarities to it.
I didn't spend too much time with it when I was playing through the remaster because I was just like, I just need a keyboard.
Yeah.
Okay, so the cinematics specifically, and originally I thought they were AI upscaled, and then I saw in that giant bomb thing, you're like, oh, we recreated them. I was like, shit, they did that in Dark Forces. Why did I not think of that? So I want to know, what tools did you use to recreate those? Because they look very convincing to the original ones.
Yeah, well, we've got a really fantastic group of people that we brought on specifically to do, remade cinematics. And they originally came on to do the cinematics for Quake 2. So if you play that game, all those cinematics are completely remade as well. And that's kind of where we started that whole process. So every game since then, I think it's probably Quake 2, Dark Forces, maybe a little bit in The Thing. I think those mostly must be in-engine stuff, but then System Shock 2, there's a lot of cinematics, and basically what had to be done was we just watched the cinematics over and over and over again, and then just rebuilt the scenes in a 3D package and lit it and composed it and used the same animations and just re-recorded them. So it was very laborious and time intensive, but what's really cool is a lot of the animations that are in game are the same ones that are used in the cinematic. So there was a lot of like crossover. What you'll notice is that the character models are a lot more rounded out. There's more polygons, and the animations and the deformations of joints is a lot cleaner. And so we were able to use that in game and in the cinematics. So there wasn't like a whole lot of like kind of one-off work.
That makes sense. Yeah, because that was something I noticed immediately. I mean, otherwise, I think the remaster work is so convincing that you're almost like, oh, they didn't do anything. Which is like, it sounds like it's a backhanded compliment, but it's like so faithful. But yeah, like I noticed on the robots, when you blow them up, they like convincingly lose parts now. It doesn't just disappear.
Yeah, and there's pieces inside that are still on there that have textures now, so you can kind of see inside the robot. But like, it's such a small detail, like you said, and that's kind of one of our guiding principles, is that if we do a good enough job, a lot of people won't even notice it.
Yeah,
And,
well,
Strictly
Yeah.
what I felt with this one too, because at first I'm like, what the hell did they even change?
there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot that we changed.
we always say it's a slogan of ours that our goal is to make games that play the way you remember the gameplay.
Yeah,
That brings back that feeling, that's not disruptive. It's not, oh, this is a completely different game, but that re-immerse you back into not just that playing experience, but that time that you feel away. And so you have to step back and say, well, yeah, except now I'm playing it on a 30-inch monitor and I'm getting 120 frames per second. So maybe they did change some stuff. That's one of the things. Our reviews, the reviews that have been coming out on it, have been absolutely great, stellar, I would say. But it is funny when I see reviewers say, absolutely loved the game, the experience was great, but you should realize it's an old game. Well, yeah, because they don't let me remaster games that haven't come out yet. I mean, come on, Also, it's funny because Jeff Grubb on the Giant Bomb thing asked the question, are you guys worried about running out of material? And I said to him, I figure in 10 years I'll be remastering Death Stranding too. Should be old enough. But again, our goal in this is the reason the reason behind Nightdive is that we love these old games. And we want to keep that experience. We want to keep what made the game a classic in the first place intact. And so that's what our goal always is.
yeah, and I mean, I wouldn't want you, other than say like with the Shadow Man remaster, how you restored cut content, and even in the thing, there's some level design tweaks. Like, I wouldn't. You could say one of my questions later, I think, is about if you were to remake System Shock 2, if you would do any changes, and like the ending, is kind of. So just, I wouldn't want that as like we're trying to present the original System Shock 2 experience, and then the ending is totally different.
So I want to make sure that we get around to that. We're coming up to the time limit.
Yeah.
But I want to say this, that one of the other things that's really been important to us, and I say, I mean, throughout Nightdive and Atari and Digital Eclipse, is preserving the work of the artists. That I say this a million times, so pardon the cliche, but if we all agree that video games are art, then the people that make them are artists. And people like Paul Neurath, Warren Spector, from the System Shock team, Kevin Cloud from id Software. We've been doing interviews with these people as deep dives, and it's really important that the people understand that these games were made by artists, by people whose work deserves to be expected and who deserve the respect themselves. That being said, one of the things that I think we're probably really helps explain why our games are of the quality that they are is because whenever possible, we reach out to the original team and we ask them, what would you change if you could do it all again? What was incomplete? What didn't the technology back then allow you to do that you could do now? Sometimes it's relatively subtle things. Sometimes it's things like giving the players the option to play with or without the fog in Turok. Right? We understood that was a hack that was put in because the technology didn't allow them to do the level of detail and still have a long draw distance. So by limiting the draw distance, they could increase the detail and still have it supported by hardware. that their N64 wasn't going to burst into flames, when they tried to play the game. So, yeah, but that's something else that we do a lot of.
Yeah, and again, I don't want it to sound like I'm trying to knock the original creators of System Shock 2. Like, a lot of it, because I've been reading some old interviews that Ken Levine had did, and he even said, like, EA mandated multiplayer, so they had to spend time doing that, and it kind of affected the ending, because they just had to cobble something together. But I guess I'll just segue into the next question. If you were to do a full remake of System Shock 2, would you make any fundamental changes to its design? And I guess we can talk about the ending.
Yeah, to its design, probably not, but to the narrative side of things, we spoke with Ken Levine just recently and did a pretty comprehensive interview with him, and there were other plans for the ending, as most of us know. And I think that, under that remake banner, I think we would feel comfortable changing it or adding to it. And that's something I think, if we were to do that, we would circle back with Ken and maybe sit down with him and be like, okay, well, what did you want to do? What was your vision? And what can we do to, finally see that through? And I think that would be pretty exciting, and maybe give us a little bit of leeway with the community, when inevitably they get to the end and it's, you're not getting the nah.
Join me, human,
and we can move.
and we can move together.
Nah.
Wait, this isn't the way I remember it.
Yeah.
That ending's so funny to me, though. It's like so out of tone with the rest of the
Yeah, but I mean, it's become iconic. It's like it's just part of the history now.
Yeah, of course. And again, I wouldn't want that changed unless it was a remake. Then, of course, you could do something to either improve or tweak it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so since we're coming up on the time, I'll shift to the general Nightdive questions. And the one game I do want to ask about, which you might not be able to give a full answer, is can you comment about the status of Sin Reloaded?
Yeah, and we can talk about that. So initially, the game was being kind of co-developed with 3D Realms, but after the Embracer acquisition of 3D Realms, there just wasn't enough bandwidth, kind of on their side and honestly on our side at the time, that we both kind of just agreed to call it quits on that particular iteration of the game. But we did pick up development on that again not too long ago, and it is in active development. So it's going to be more like a standard Nightdive remaster at this point, where the visuals are going to get upgraded, the animations are going to be fixed, long-standing bugs are going to be squashed, and it's hopefully just going to be a solid, fun first-person shooter that you can play, on your PC or console of choice.
It's not going to have the model warping anymore?
No, yeah, the vertex translations. Yeah, we've got such a great experience using the Quake 2 engine now that a lot of that stuff is going to be cleaned up.
I just thought that wasn't even in your Quake 2 remaster.
Peter, just a note for you. We don't refer to those as bugs. We like to call them undocumented features. Only kidding.
I know the vertex thing was just a limitation of the engine. It's like on PS1 how you have the affine texture warping because of the way they did texture filtering. Although, God in heaven, I do not want to go back to that. So, I guess this might specifically be for Steven, but since you seem to be running out of white whale games to chase, what lost game do you still hope you can resurrect in the coming years, excluding No One Lives Forever? Because we know it's like the big one.
Yeah, well, if you hadn't said excluding, I was going to. So, one that I would really love to do. I don't know if I refer to it as a white whale, but Call of Cthulhu: Dark Corners of the Earth
Oh, that would be really cool. Yeah.
would be fun. I think that the game still holds up really well. It could use a little bit of refinement here and there with some of like the puzzles and the combat and that kind of thing.
I was gonna say opening doors. That was always so weirdly, like, I don't know, on PC it just doesn't work that well.
Yeah, it's a little jank. It's funny too. I'm actually wearing my. It's hard to see, but I'm wearing my Miskatonic University T-shirt today, so that's appropriate. But yeah, that I always loved that game. I played it when it first came out, and I've played the various patched versions that have come out over the years, and yeah, it could use a Nightdive treatment for sure. It's a great if you love H.P. Lovecraft, it's one of the best video game adaptations.
Yeah, I have the Steam version now, but I think I played the Xbox one way back, and I mean it is a really good game. I wonder how I would view it nowadays. So I mean that's like borderline 360 era. So I'll even ask. You recently stated that Nightdive felt ready to tackle 360 games. So which games from that era would you like to bring back?
Larry, what games should we say?
Usually when I get asked that question, I duck and say all of them. But
A lot of games from that era. Jeez.
yeah, I'm drawing a blank on that also.
I mean, for me personally, it would be Condemned 2 because that just never had a PC release.
That's one that we get asked about a fair amount of time, and I'd like to do that because I think that there are fanatics in our audience that would truly appreciate that.
Yeah, that's a great one. I'll just King Kong, Peter Jackson's
God,
King Kong, the game.
Like, no reason.
Yeah.
Well, not no reason. I don't mean to say it like that. The Ubisoft put a lot of work into that, but like you wouldn't expect Peter Jackson's King Kong to be a good game.
Yeah, it was that era had some surprisingly good video game movie adaptations, or I should say adaptations of movies. The Chronicles of Riddick game was also fantastic. It's one that's hard to track down these days. Condemned is also a big favorite of mine. If we could get both Condemned 1 and 2 and a package that you could play together, I think that would probably be ideal. Just so you could experience them both on whatever platform you wanted.
The
Darkness would be super cool. That's another Starbreeze title from the Top Cow comic book.
Yeah.
That one's really awesome. That was another one where only one of them was released on like Xbox, right?
And it's a good port. I remember playing it and it controls well. It's just, for whatever reason, the first one's console only.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that's nice about the current era, and that I'm not sure that we appreciate, it's the inverse of recency bias, is that things aren't exclusive. That exclusivity has kind of faded on that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of our mantra, that you should be able to play any game that you want from us on any platform that you want.
And I love the cross-platform support you've been putting into the multiplayer releases. Recently, my friend wanted to play Doom with me, and I have it on Switch and PC. So I was like, "Oh, just family share the PC one, and I'll use my Switch." So we just played that.
Yeah, isn't that a great thing to have? And then things like the relationship with our friends over at Bethesda ZeniMax really started because we were the guys that could bring Doom 64 to modern platforms. So
yeah, you even made, well, not you exclusively, but you guys had contributed to that new episode, which is always really cool.
Yeah,
there's to the multiplayer thing. Was very surreal. a couple weeks ago, we were testing System Shock 2 25th on multiplayer, and we had somebody on PC, Switch, PlayStation, and Xbox all playing together. And, we had to just take a moment to just be like, this is not what they intended,
Clearly, now that we've ended the console wars, we move towards world peace.
That's right.
All right. Thanks, Sean.
Even yesterday, I was reading this thing about there's Nintendo Pictures, which is a CG company that previously used to be called Dynamo, and they contributed to Death Stranding too.
Yeah, I saw that too.
So it's like you could boot up a PlayStation game and see Nintendo in the credits, and then you could boot up an Xbox game on your Switch, and then I don't know. As a '90s kid, my mind is still like
I can't get around to the first time that I installed Linux on a Windows 11 PC from the Microsoft Store. Right, using WSL, but then directs you to the Microsoft Store. I said, Steve Ballmer must be spinning in his grave. One of my devs said he's not dead. This will kill him.
I guess this will be the most speculative question, and it's sort of related to System Shock 2, but is there any chance that, say, Nightdive gets back into original game development, that you guys would tackle System Shock 3?
So, when I was in Guatemala and was trying to figure out who owned the rights to System Shock 2, that first email that I got back from Star Insurance Company, that's what they asked me to. They said, do you want to do System Shock 3? And, at that time, I'm like, well, I mean, I'm in the jungle. I've got maybe a couple $1,000s to my name. Probably not in the best position to be doing that. After we did the remake of System Shock 1, I started thinking, we got a really talented group of people here. Like, we maybe could do this. And now, it's 4 or 5 years later, and I think we got the chops if we were presented with the opportunity to do it. So I want to do it. I think we're uniquely suited to do it. We've spent more time in the Shock universe than, even the original developers at this point. It's just one of those things that we're gonna have to work with Tencent. They're currently they have the rights to do the third game through some negotiations that happened over the years. But yeah, would we like to do it? Absolutely.
Just gonna say, like, I know, weirdly enough, now that one's caught in rights issues.
Yeah.
That seems
it's all
Nightdive.
particular. Yeah.
Okay, so
I tell people, if it was easy, then everyone would do it. So
yeah, I mean, you're right. And that seems like the best place to end. So thank you guys very much for talking to me. I'm very grateful, and I hope that I've asked some unique questions. And
you have, and it's always a pleasure to chat with you. So
yeah, I really appreciate it, and even the support you've given me throughout the years. I hope that everything I've ever done or said or written about you reflects in my work, and that it's helped you guys in some way.
we're here with you, so that should answer that question.
I guess. But you know how imposter syndrome is. I'm always like,
I always tell people I don't feel that I'm worthy to have imposter syndrome. On that cheery note,
Nice.
thank you so much for the time.
yeah, then thanks for chatting with me. I hope you guys have a nice day.
Cheers.
Yeah, thanks, Peter.